Split all recordings. I think I remember how to do this thing. YouTube. Hello, welcome to the YouTube podcast, episode number 80, the big 80, 40 times 2. We're here talking about the new tour coming up in less than a week. Depending on when you listen to this, it might not be happening tomorrow. It might be a week from now. And I'm joined by, on the podcast today, to my left, right, depending on how you're looking at it, the world, Collin, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
It's good to have you. And then next is Mr. Matt McGee, right mid-sip of water. Always catch them when they're...
Have we really done 80 of these?
I know. Is that how it feels?
Chris has.
Yeah.
We have.
Actually,
Chris
I haven't.
has.
I
Oh no,
haven't been on
yeah.
every
Matt
episode.
hosted it a little while ago.
There's a
didn't
couple. There's a couple that I hosted. That was when, if you look at the analytics, it just takes a nosedive right down.
And we're joined by not Mason Merritt.
he? Hello.
Back. How are you, Mason?
Or should I say goodbye since I'm not Mason Merritt? I don't
So
know. How that works.
it's a very intriguing Twitter handle you have. It makes me
it's
want to say,
mysterious.
well, who are you?
Yeah.
I'm certainly not Mason Merritt. That much you can glean from it.
See? All right.
So
Is it
before
a
we get
reaction against the real Mason Merritt?
to yeah,
It's
Is there an
something.
at the real Mason Merritt out there? Is that why you had to pick that one?
I honestly haven't looked.
Okay. I'm sure there
My
is.
mind immediately went to joke, so
yeah,
All right.
you know.
that's good. It's Twitter. Before we get too far down the road, I want to mention for anybody who's watching live on Twitch, we have our voting machine is back for titles and stuff like that. So during the episode, while you're recording, while we're recording, and you're watching, you can in the chat you can type !S and then suggest a title. Type out your suggestion, and then that'll get automatically added to a list. And then at the end of the episode, we'll all be able to vote on what we think the show title should be. And of course, any swears, any bad words, any derogatory terms towards Canada or U2 will not qualify for. It's not a democracy. It's just a gauging of the waters, I guess. Not. This isn't definitive polling, but so feel free to do that as we go. So
I can't. Can we, the four of us, vote while we're looking at the? We have to be on Twitch. We can't be in the Mimo thing, right?
well, you can go look at the chat if you want to see what suggestions there are, and then.
But I can't type one here.
Well, you could, yeah, if you wanted to.
Don't stuff the ballot boxes, McGee. Come on.
It does show who voted or who suggested the title. So if it's all
Okay.
30 suggestions by Matt McGee, we'll know. very
Well, hopefully
quickly.
we end up with something interesting during the conversation, because if we end up going with suggest a title as the title, which is what you just suggested, I think that's a pretty lame title, and that will really tank listenership for this show.
And I'm from Illinois, so automatically I should not be trusted with any sort of voting procedure at all. We're all
Yes.
corrupt in the states, so I'm just gonna abstain. Keep my hands clean.
I assume that's some sort of U.S. political joke that I don't understand, but
Al Capone, baby.
Yeah, it's just
The
yeah.
Kennedys
Just Google
busting in
Illinois,
dead
and you'll just
voters.
get. Yeah, exactly. Three of our last 4 governors are in jail, so that'll give you some.
Okay. Speaking of politics, we'll just briefly mention, then we'll move on very quickly. Bono was met with George W. Bush. George W. Yeah, that's the second one, right? Yeah.
Yes.
He was awarded an award, and he had a conversation, which you can find the link at u2.com. And we'll just leave any other political discussion to Facebook chat groups, wherever you happen to be, and you can
But here's the thing about universal health care.
come to Canada.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
So for this episode, also we're going to mention just in brief, if you haven't already checked it out, the At U2 news brief is a brief catalog or capture of the news of the day from At U2. So you can check that out, anchor.fm/ATU2, and it'll be, 5 minutes at most kind of thing of whatever U2 news is of most importance that day. Otherwise, I think Matt just fills it with the sound of his dog. That's what I've heard.
Eating his dinner.
Yeah. So hopefully there's U2 news to check out. So we're going to jump right into the roundtable and actually just call it the mailbag edition, because we had a bunch of good questions from folks all about the tour that's coming up in a little while here. Is it less than a week now? I forget which. I've been following Sherry's tweets. For
1 week from tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, a week from tonight, I'll be in Tulsa on the GA floor getting psyched.
Your very first time seeing an opening night, right?
Yeah. So excited.
Nice.
Yeah, we should maybe just preface this with which shows right now, as we record anyways, which shows are you planning to attend? Collin, what on the tour, where are you headed?
Well, I have my my tickets for Chicago 1, and I'm really holding out for some kind of GA ticket drop for Chicago 2. This is the first, I'm really on pins and needles because this is the first time I haven't had a ticket in advance for a Chicago show that's less than a month away now. So I'm a little nervous, but I will be at Chicago 2 somehow. I may be up in the rafters, but I will be there. I will be in the building. So
gotcha. And Matt, who's now, where did Matt go? There's just a different person now. He's taking his glasses off.
There's a glare on my glasses. I don't know what shows I'm going. I don't know what shows I'm going to at this point. So
okay. You have no tickets. Nothing.
I have tickets. It's okay. Yes, I have tickets.
Okay.
I'll go to every show. How's that?
Abstaining from declaring it. You don't want all your fans to follow you. Okay, Mason, which shows are you going to?
So at the aforementioned Tulsa in just a few days now, New York City 1 and New York City 3 and maybe number 2, but I'm not sure.
Gotcha. And I'm both Montreal shows. I think I mentioned in the last episode, but looking forward to that. So first of all, we had a little, I don't know if this is considered a leak or maybe it's with the consent of U2's management. I kind of doubt it, but the chef, the kitchen staff, the folks running sort of the, what's it called? Catering, right. That's the word I'm looking for. In Laval, the guy who owns that business tweeted out, or Instagrammed, I guess, posted some photos of the stage and the screen. So, we should also mention we're very spoilerific this episode. So we're not going to hold back. We're not going to pause halfway through. We're just going to, at this point, it's a week before the tour starts. If you're still trying to abstain from tour news and stuff like that, you might want to just shut off the episode and listen maybe in a week or whatever, when we'll all look like idiots because the tour will be underway and all the stuff we've thought might happen didn't, or vice versa. So, okay, that being said, the screen looks very much like the Innocence and Experience tour, I would say, right? You actually didn't see it myself in person, so you guys can attest to how familiar.
I mean, it may as well be a snapshot from the Innocence and Experience tour, because the photo is of the animated sequence from A Song for Someone. So it's not, which we know they've been rehearsing, so it's not a surprise. But it is, it's kind of not a surprise just looking at the photos. Like, well, I've seen that before. So maybe they did leak it out, but they just didn't want to leak out something that's new, Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Well, I think it's. I think that's there's. I think we should refer to the gentleman or company that posted that stuff as their former caterer.
I know,
because I'm pretty sure that they didn't want that out there. That would just be a guess. Yeah. But I did not know that song has been rehearsed. I'm not totally avoiding spoilers. I'm kind of avoiding spoilers, so I should not have volunteered to be on the podcast tonight. But there's certain things that have just sprung to mind.
Well, you're gonna have to post the videos from Tulsa, so you're gonna get spoiled. So.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's not. Like I said, I'm totally avoiding. Like somebody in our Slack, like a few nights ago, said, "Wow, if that's if the set list they rehearsed tonight is the actual set list, how great it is." And like I haven't seen like when it was U2 Song was posting stuff, right? And so I think like on the second night of rehearsals, that's the only night that I've actually clicked to read. And it wasn't like a full set list. It was like 5 or 6 songs. And then in our Slack, I've seen, another 5 or 6 songs get mentioned. So that's, so I kind of have this vague idea of what's been played or what's been rehearsed, but I have no idea like what a set list might look like or anything like that. So anyway, that's where I am with spoilers, and yeah, I'm guessing that's their former caterer at this point.
He did manage to get a picture with Dallas holding a guitar. I'm going to assume maybe one of Edge's guitars before he was probably, well, he posted it after they had left Laval. So I guess, yeah, it's safe to say he won't be back probably next time.
I'll look him up on
Lesson
LinkedIn
learned.
when I get a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, which it's, I mean, I think in thinking about it, really, I think at this stage of U2's career, they're definitely less worried about that kind of stuff than they would have been, say, Zoo TV era or something like that. But still, there's, a certain amount of secrecy and surprise they want to be able to have. So I wouldn't be surprised if at least he gets some sort of letter from somebody or a phone call or whatever. But the photos are still up on the Instagram account as we record right now anyways. So the other thing that has been sort of launched or officially launched by U2, and I don't know, Matt, if you're avoiding spoilers on this, but the augmented reality app that they sort of talked about and teased that they're going to incorporate somehow into the tour. They released an app for iPhone and Android yesterday, I think it was now, and earlier this week anyways. And so you can download the app now. And actually, as we record on Twitch, if you're watching the live stream, you can point the app at our live stream, the video, and it'll enact. Basically, you just have to point it at the album cover for Experience and Songs of Experience album cover, as Matt does right now, to test it out. See, prove me wrong.
No, it works. It works beautifully. It's like Bono was on the podcast with us.
Yeah.
So ask your questions
Surprise.
real quick because he only shows for about 30 seconds.
What do you smell like? You get
You
it?
can
No?
smell his torso. Yeah. What are your guys' thoughts on this AR app as it sits right now, anyways?
Has everybody played with it already?
Yes.
Does it work for everybody, I guess, too?
Yeah, did it work
Yes,
for
it
everybody?
does.
Yep.
Yeah,
I guess,
I
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. Go ahead. I started.
No, I'm
last
just
time.
most curious about how they use it in the show and how they're able to communicate that to everybody, because I can just see half of the arena knowing exactly what to do and then the other half saying, well, how is everybody doing this? Why does everybody having these effects on the screen or whatever? I don't know. Communication is always going to be an issue unless they hand out like little index cards to everybody who walks in and says, hey, this is what we're doing. Or maybe if they turn on the screen and have like directions or something like that. Logistically, I have problems with it, but maybe in a few weeks, word will have spread around. So by the time they get to New York, everybody's going to know what to do and they'll get used to it, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of mixed feelings about it. On one hand, I love stuff like this. I love new technology. I love that they're incorporating stuff like this into the show and making the audience part of the show in a way that they haven't really done before. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that. They've done stuff like this, variations of stuff like this, but the technology is new. But what I presumably, I think where the plan is to have something at the very beginning of the show where you're supposed to point your phone at the screen as the lights go down and the show starts. That's my understanding of it from what I've read. Hopefully, I'm kind of hoping that changes, because when the lights go down, I mean, I'm not going to burst into
throw
song
yourself
there for a
about?
second, but yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. Actually, because the adrenaline is rushing. Your favorite band is coming on stage. You really want to get to your struggle with the phone. Go, okay, what am I supposed to do now? What am I supposed to do now? And is it working? Is it working? No, I want to jump up and down like a maniac when the four guys take the stage. So like you kind of need that energy to get a concert going. So I think one thing to do maybe would be better to do like what they did for Innocence and Experience, where they had that intermission section where a song is playing, like either The Wanderer or The Fly, which depending on which show you went to, and have that part be the augmented reality part. Just to kind of break it up a little bit. I think putting something like that at the beginning of the show is going to confuse some people, and it's going to kind of ruin the energy a little bit. But then again, I'm basing what I've read of kind of how they're going to do it, but they might still be playing around with that. So
Yeah, there is the fact that say this carefully, but like U2's audience is getting older, and technology for older folks can sometimes be confusing. And
Well, the median age of this podcast is what, like 32, something like that. Thank you.
You have to say that again. Matt didn't hear you. His
oh, snap. Game on.
Where is it here?
No, I do think, speaking from a societal sense, just looking at the macro, I guess, I think people are a lot more attuned to technology than we might be giving them credit for. Because, walk down the street and count how many iPhones you see, and you're gonna 90% of cell phones are going to be iPhones, and people are more and more every single day getting the hang of it. Like my mom has, and she's in her late 40s, I think. She has an iPhone, and my dad has a flip phone. So
Nice.
if you just kind of take the middle, people are adept to smartphones, and they can probably figure it out. Especially if you're going to a tour like this, where you have your paperless ticketing and your live streams and all that. So I don't think it's going to be that much of a problem to get everybody sort of up to speed.
The only
Especially
thing would
with
be
this, it's very user friendly.
if they don't have the app already, and then let's say whatever, there's 30,000 people, and half of them do and half of them don't, and then all those people go and frantically try and download, or even on their way in, like stadium Wi-Fi is terrible, and cellular in a stadium is often terrible. So I don't know. We're not saying stuff that U2 hopefully hasn't, and their management haven't thought about. Like, it's not like they'll get to the show and be like, oh shoot, we didn't count on nobody having the app already or whatever. That's kind of why they sent it out already in advance. But even that, like they sent out, it's on U2.com obviously, and I think they sent an email to, if you're on one of their newsletters maybe, but then obviously fan sites picked it up, but as of earlier today anyways, their Twitter account hadn't tweeted anything about it.
Well, go ahead, Chris.
No, I have more rants yet. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Well, okay. So, so two things on the promotion thing. Number one, they will, before they get to every city, they always do this sort of little press availability with. It used to be Craig Evans from Live Nation. He's not there, so it'll be somebody else. Sherry knows the name. I can't remember the name. But they always make press available. They make somebody available to, do a little quick interview about the show. So I am sure that will be like the number one topic of discussion, and the local media will pick up on this within the, 3 days or so before each show. And I think the national media, once the first show happens and this becomes this crazy new thing, blah, 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 then I think the national media, the music media, especially Rolling Stone, Billboard, and so forth, I think that will further spread the word. And then I just assume that they're going to use the screen to advertise it. When you walk in, there's going to be some sort of thing on there that will, or there'll be some sort of in-arena advertisement telling you, hey, download the app, for an augmented reality experience. So I think they will certainly promote it and try to increase attention and use of it. But even with, I'm sure, as you guys have been saying, there's still going to be some percentage of folks that A, don't care, B, can't get connected to download it, or C, whatever, just aren't in the mood for that kind of thing. And that's fine. It won't be something that everybody has to participate in. But and then the other thing I think that I think about it when I watch this, you play it and he pops up and he starts singing. I think that's the beginning of the concert. I think that's how the show's going to start. I think it goes dark or whatever, and there's the album cover comes up or something comes up on the screen, and everybody points their phones, and Bono starts showing on the screen singing, or the pre-recorded version of Love Is All We Have Left. And then those of us that have the app, we actually see the augmented reality thing with the 3D kind of stuff, and everybody else will just see him on the screen. And so anyway, I think that's how the show is going to start.
Yeah, but I mean,
because that's what they said, right? I mean, they said it's as the band takes the stage and through the first song. So I think that's got to be the first song.
Yeah, but
right?
What's the difference in shooting off of the album cover, like the vinyl or the jewel case, or just your laptop? is it going to be that much better to see him,
Yeah, I don't know.
the mushy T-shirt Bono singing in the arena than is at home?
That's a new one.
And if you're up against the rail and looking at the screen, from a weird angle, I mean, I tried it last night with the album cover, and you really do have to be straight ahead when you're aiming your phone. So if you're like off to the side and you can't really get a good vantage point of the screen, it's not going to work. I think that's my guess.
Thank you, Tasula, by the way.
She suggested mushy T-shirt Bono as a show title. All right, it's working. Yeah, and I think that's all interesting, and I'm with Mason. I think it feels like it's a gimmick for gimmick's sake. It doesn't feel like this great, cool, like innovative thing that they're going to do in what we know right now. Maybe they'll blow our minds and it'll be amazing and all that kind of stuff. It feels like a little bit like, here's AR. We can say we did AR, and it looks like we're hip and cool with the kids and stuff. And I don't know.
Well, it won't make or break the show.
Yeah.
No, it won't. But to that, I think, Chris, to the one thing I'd add to the point you just made is that this is the first tour ever for U2 fans that we will walk in on opening night and have seen everything before, right? Every other tour you go to, you want to see what the stage looks like. We've never seen it. We want to see what the screen looks like. We've never seen the screen before. There's nothing going to be new. There's no whoa factor when we walk into the arena on this tour because many of us will have seen it 3 years ago. So I think that is probably what's compelling them to want to do something right out of the gate that differentiates from what we experienced, what we saw 3 years ago. Just a guess.
Yeah. Way to kill my vibe, man.
Yeah, that idea of doing it during the ignition.
I'm not going.
Mason's out. All right.
Yeah. Now, I think they're going to have something. They're going to have something other than VR, something maybe we're not expecting, or some cool new usage of the cage or something. I doubt that their whole gimmick or their big project, I guess, is going to be the first song and then out. But
oh no, yeah, no, I agree. I'm sure there'll be plenty of new stuff throughout the show, but I think they're very well aware that we're all walking into an arena and seeing something that we've seen before, which has never been the case before with a new tour.
I'm still holding out that the cage is going to do some form of projection, and it's not going to be a 2D image anymore. That's like the technology's there. Like I've played with it in school a few years ago that you can create stuff, and with holograms and all the crazy stuff people are doing. I think the cage, there's more to the cage than is being let on. Or the screen, I should say.
More than
I think Chris was just alluding to it. You're alluding to it like spinning around, like during the shot. That would be like cool.
Kiss drummer style.
Yeah. Why not?
That would be a sweet The Fly or
they have enough
Mysterious
face
Ways.
paint. But...
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, let's get to some other questions from listeners. We've we said we had a bunch, and we're halfway through the episode, and we're just getting to them. So Liz had asked question. I remember covering this, I think, before the previous tour started too. But question for the YouTube podcast: if you wanted to try catch the band entering the venue before the night of the show, like for autographs and stuff like that, and you see people taking photos with the band before and all that kind of stuff, what time do you need to do that to get out and meet and greet with fans? There's a chance she'll be there early enough to try, and she's never done it and has no idea what she's doing. She's referring to the Newark Prudential Center, but obviously I think it would apply generally, obviously, unless there's other things they're up to or whatever as a band. But is there any tips have you guys lined up by the cars or whatever when they're coming in screaming Bono and trying to get an autograph?
I've done this at the United Center, where they have a nice little grassy area by the entrance, and there are people who get out there really early in the morning. If all you want to do is get an autograph or take their picture, you don't really have to get there that early, but they tend to arrive between like 2:00 and 3:30 in the afternoon. That's usually about, in Chicago anyway, that's been about when they arrive, maybe a little later, but, I guess, I don't know unless you dress provocatively or have something interesting to say, or just you do something or have something that really catches their their attention in some way. They'll. I mean, they're very nice. I mean, they'll. We've gotten autographs and shake hands and everything, but sometimes they don't have time for that. Sometimes they're running late and they have to get in there for the sound check as soon as possible. So you got to be ready for that. Be prepared to be disappointed too if that's disappointing to you.
Or in my case, in the case of New York, or they have to run inside to film a documentary that nobody's ever going to see. So always got to take that into account.
Not that you're bitter.
No. I did some minor stalking. I got what I wanted to do, so I didn't.
How about you, Matt? Have you ever lined up on the?
I have not.
Press the flesh.
No, but you just, you just whatever arena it is, you just get there and ask someone at security or other fans, where is the loading entrance? That's typically where the band goes in, and there will, as Collin said, there will usually already be a crowd of people there waiting, and mid-afternoon sometime, and good luck.
And you got to be, I think, a little bit aggressive or like politely pushy is probably the best way if you really want to.
Oh yeah, but there are people who. I remember last time I went out there during Innocence. There were people who are lined up at pressed up against the fence, and then a few people trying to kind of squeeze in between at the fence, and they were just getting really aggressive. Like, no, this is my spot. Get away from me. Get away. Back. And there's no need to do that, but. People get very protective of their spot.
Yeah, and I think I've heard that if it is like too aggressive or unsafe or whatever, then the band's security will say, look, they're not going to stop because it's not a good situation. So it's in everyone's best interest to just take a chill pill and relax.
Yeah, exactly. Sue in the chat says it's whenever sound check happens, and Sherry said if there's too many people, they won't come out. So yeah, common sense kind of stuff. So. But yeah, especially if you're going to a couple shows in either different venues or whatever, it's maybe worth checking out and trying. So, at Tim Jahar asked during the I&E tour, how hard, easy was it to see things on the screen from GA? I'll be the asker because I wasn't on the I&E tour at all. I'll be one of the folks experiencing it all for the first time. How hard was it if you were up close to the rail or wherever, somewhere in GA, I guess, even far back? How hard was it to see the screen?
I've never been up against the rail for I&E. I've always been a little bit back, by more by the seats, and I think that I had no problem seeing. But I guess it would be a little harder to see if you're like right up against the ramp. It's not. I don't know if it would be as clear, but.
Because presumably there's still, like at every show, at least any show I've been to, there's like the rush to get right up close to the stage. But with this stage setup, there's sort of two stages, kind of like the B stage and the main stage. And then presumably that still happens. There's still a rush to get to those close spots or whatever. But then the sort of sound booth area, like what typically would be in a normal concert venue with just a stage at the front, like Joshua Tree, is there still a sort of a pack of folks there, I guess, that are hanging out, chilling out back there?
No, this stage pretty much extends to the back of the arena. There's not a whole lot of, there's not a whole lot of room for a ton of people between the arena and actually now that I'm thinking about it, I can't really remember where the sound booth was. Was it in the back of the arena? I can't.
No, the sound booth and all the Willie and his team, they're all up like at the suite level.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
It's not on the floor at all.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
How about you, Matt?
Speaking for my experience, for my second NYC show, I was in the dead middle between the I&E stage at the very front of the rail, and like Sherry's dropping in the comments there. You did kind of have to crane up and get some major neck stiffness to see the screen, but with my first couple of shows, seeing them overall, I couldn't care less about the screen, really. I was much more interested in the band. And then the first show I went to was up at the rail by Edge, and I kind of, if you're up there and you have if you can see down the entire screen, you don't get the clearest picture of all the animation that's on there, but you can see I guess if Bono's in the screen, kind of going back and forth. But I guess the further back, the better. If your goal is to see the screen, if your goal is to be close to them, then you should be close to them. But if you want to see the screen, hang back a little bit, and there's usually a lot more elbow room. So,
anything more to add there, Matt?
No, that's all. I agree with all that. And then I know on the the 2015 tour there was usually enough maneuver room, as Mason was just saying, or as not Mason was just saying, that fans would knowing that okay, the band's about to move out to the second stage, then everybody would go out there, and so yeah, you can kind of maneuver your way through and give yourself enough room to see whatever you want to see throughout the night.
Yeah. And also, please be aware of your body too, because I'm 5'8". I think Sherry has also mentioned that she has vision problems sometimes. If you're 6'10", and I only say this because it happened at New York City, if you're 6'10", for the love of God, please hang back. You're not missing anything, and you'd be able to see much better when people who aren't that tall can't. So just to note there for any of our enormous listeners that should be playing basketball. Big pet peeve of mine when people aren't mindful of their height.
One thing I wish they would, I hope that they kind of fix is for people who have seats in the back part of the arena where they're facing the main stage, but they can't really see what's on the screen. Have a monitor up or something that shows what is on that screen, so the people who paid pretty good money for those seats have at least an idea of what's going on in the show.
I think they do for the upper bowls. I've seen screens.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was up there once, like third tier, kind of, facing the stage pretty much, not really seeing much of the screen. And the presentation up there on the monitors was not, it did not include that much in the way of screen content for people who are, who would like to see the whole show and the whole, all the artistic choices that went into it. They're kind of missing out on stuff up there. So I hope they fix that.
Yeah, Sherry's saying the monitor is only focused on the band and it's black and white, not color, no focus on the screen.
Yeah.
Which it is an interesting thing. Like if you were at that's where like going to the theater or whatever, you would expect to be able to see the whole screen or the whole play, regardless of where your seats are. And even like Sherry was saying, I think earlier, if you're up in the E stage area, or the I stage, I guess, whatever it'll be called this time. But at the end of that, you're not going to see anything on the screen because you're going to see right down the barrel of the cage, I guess, basically.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's just kind of like that. You just hope, I guess, for a good Blu-ray version of the show that comes out after it's all done to see the parts you missed if you're only at one show. And let's see. Next question. Ken Cunningham 3 said, do you think the reported longer set lists on this leg are because U2 maybe is unsure of how many tours they have left, or Bono has become more confident in his voice? I think it's maybe column A or column B. But Matt, you got a smirk.
I'll believe it when I see it.
What, the final tour ID?
The longer set lists.
Yeah.
I'd love to know because that was Willie's quote it wasn't even a quote. It was Rolling Stone saying that was what the plan was. And I'll believe that when I see it. I think U2 is not Bruce Springsteen. And a zebra does not change its colors after 30 years together. And so they play a 2 hour and 15 minute, 2 hour and a half if you're lucky, if they add some stuff. I don't expect anything more than that. So I'm not answering any questions about longer set lists until it actually happens.
But here's an option C for you that I don't think we're considering, but I think has some merit to it. Is that I think they like playing arenas more. I really do. And you get closer to the audience. There's, it's more intimate, and it's just I'm saying as an audience member that I enjoy arena shows more. But I've always gotten the impression that they like arenas more, because with the stadium, there's just so many people that you don't really get a sense of the room, I guess. And with arenas, you kind of do, and that maybe leads to, let's bust out Party Girl, or can we fit Stuck in a Moment in somewhere? I like that song. The crowd's gonna dig it. Maybe that's the optimist in me, but I do think that does factor into it a little bit.
Yeah,
and they are really sprinkling in. I mean, I'm looking at one of the rehearsal set lists right now, and they really are sprinkling in the war horses that really, smart places. There's maybe 3 or 4 songs that maybe only the fans know, or I mean the diehard fans know, and then they throw in Elevation, and then a few more that maybe only the fans know, and then they throw in Vertigo. And so I mean, I think I agree with Matt that I really don't think that the set list I'm looking at right now is going to stick, because it's just like, that's a lot of songs for a U2 show. I would love it, but U2's, in this respect, are very good self-editors, and they can sense when a show is lagging or the audience's level is lagging, and so they change stuff around from night to night to keep the energy up. Especially, I mean, some of these songs, that they've been practicing, are not audience favorites, but hopefully, they're, I don't know. I would love to see a set list like this stick, but yeah, I'm with Matt. I'm skeptical about whether or not they'll pull it off.
Matt, if you want to cover your ears for this one, the sort of major spoiler, I guess, of the set list that they practiced anyways on the 20th, I guess it was, is there's no streets, which I think, I forget when it was, we discussed this, of when the last time was that they've ever played a show without streets. I'm just going to assume Matt's still muting, and that's why he's and so it would just be interesting to see if they actually did that, like if they had the whatever guts or the whatever you want to call it, depending on how you look at streets, I guess. Your mic's still muted, Matt, if you're talking.
Sorry. So they have not rehearsed that at all?
No.
Doesn't look like it.
Doesn't.
I don't
yeah,
think
nothing.
So.
Which
I
again,
can't believe they're actually doing it.
They could
insane.
just pull it out without much rehearsal. Which then it kind of feels like, well, if they just do that, then they're not actually trying something different with it. I don't know. Anyway, so
well, again, last time, I mean, with Joshua Tree Tour, it was the big cell phone moment of that show. And that's a song where they're used to seeing people jumping up and down and being really energetic when that song kicks in. And on Joshua Tree, it was, wow, look how big the screen is. Look how red it is. I'm going to take my cell phone and take a picture. And nobody was like, I mean, there was a wow factor. Certainly people were, I think, stunned when they saw, the images that were on the screen. But it wasn't quite the same reaction that I think that they're used to with that song. And I thought, maybe they're just kind of done with it for now.
It was also early in the show too. So go ahead, Mason.
Can I name drop?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
So I think it was Monday night, or maybe it was last night. I sent off, like we do it. It's become like a little tradition that we do this interview with Willie Williams right before the tour starts. And he finally agreed to it. And I just sent off the questions, like I said, last night or maybe Monday night. And I told him, I said, now listen, I have been mostly avoiding spoilers. So some of these questions may be really idiotic. So don't make fun of me. But I said, do you feel any freedom to not play Streets? Do you feel any freedom to not play the Joshua Tree because of last year's tour? And so that's kind of interesting that I will now be very curious to see what he has to say about that. Right?
I thought you had an answer. I was waiting. I was like,
no, I haven't. No, he hasn't even. He hasn't answered. He hasn't sent the interview back yet. So
sure.
But that I feel somewhat vindicated that I included that question. So that's cool. Yay!
Your head in the sand paid off this time.
Right.
One other question, Tim Jahar actually asked, well, this is the subtitled, will be the Tim Jahar Show. He sent in a bunch of questions, which are great for helping us sort of bounce off of for discussion. But the regardless of whatever rehearsal spoilers, so I guess, Matt, in your case especially, you can answer this really well. But what songs would you like to hear and think would fit this experience theme this go around? Anybody right off the top?
Well, I mean, songs that fit the experience theme are, I mean, I can think of a couple that would be great, but they'll never do them. A song like Summer Rain, I think, fits the experience theme. Gone. And I kind of wish they hadn't already done the Wanderer bit in the first tour, because I think this is the tour that it would fit in perfectly. I mean, maybe they'll do it again. I don't know, but I think those 3 songs came to mind when I saw this question.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Gone. I think that is a kind of a perverse version of The Showman. It's a much more cynical, if that's even possible. I guess I wouldn't say cynical. I would say it's probably a more angry version of The Showman. So maybe those two cancel each other out, or because Showman's newer, it supersedes it. But the only other song that came to mind immediately when I read this question was The Fly, which I believe has been rehearsed. I'm not 100% sure. But there is a line towards the end of that, and I have to look it up. And a universe exploding because of one man's lie. And not to point fingers at anybody directly, but there is definitely a feeling of like a crisis of truth, I guess, to not sound too pretentious, going on with the way that Facebook and Twitter have kind of been, well, Facebook more so than Twitter, been in the headlines and how information has become kind of muddled. I think The Fly has a lot of relevance when the world is so black and white when you're a kid and innocent, and then when you get older and you get experience, you realize how complicated just about everything is. And so I think that as an experience song, that it definitely has a chance. And then also, Who's Gonna Ride Your Wild Horses, just because I can't get the baby version of that song, Your Innocence, I'm Experience, out of my head. So those are my 3.
Matt, anything from you?
No, I agree with what Collin. The Wanderer to me is all about experience, and I would have listed that, but I actually I'll include that in my answer to Tim's question in 10 minutes.
That's ambitious. Optimistic.
Because I'm looking forward ahead to the other questions, and so yes.
It is. I was gonna just jump off what Mason was saying, where the Actung as an album, even, it's just hard not to like draw a lot from that album as this experience kind of album that has a lot of points that they could pull out of, and there seems to be a fair amount of it in some of the rehearsals and stuff like that. But we lost Mason. Hopefully he'll be able to join us again. But anyways, the Fly certainly would fit in the times that we're in, anyways, for sure. The Fly would fit very well, and would be a lot of fun to sort of play with, I think, on the visual side, but obviously also the music and the sound. So,
and it's also my second favorite U2 song, but that's for another day.
There we go. Where are we here? KQ Knits. I don't. Knitting fan of U2, maybe. I have a question, and this is shouted. Why in the world are the boys not practicing the little things that give you away, with about 5 exclamation points, question marks? This will once again be the ultimate sing-along song now that more people know what's up. I need it. # I need it. So yeah, spoiler. So they're not practicing it, which...
I did not know that until I read that question.
You were warned.
I know, that's all right.
And so, which leads you, it's just like this weird kind of like thinking back to the Joshua Tree tour. They ended with that song, and maybe it was just like a way of sending us off into the next tour, and they'll never reference it again. But it does feel odd to like promote that song as much as they did, and then just kind of like pretend it didn't happen, kind of like episode 1 of Star Wars. But what do you think, Matt? Your immediate reaction?
No, that's. I think that I agree with KQ Knits. I think that is very strange that they would not include that, and it makes me wonder if maybe they're like doing some things out of public view and public hearing that I don't know. That just seems really odd. Why would they not include that? Because it's like one of the best songs, if not the best song on the album. But anyway. That's opinion, and maybe they disagree. Maybe they didn't like the way it came across live last time. I don't know.
You see, but this is the perfect opportunity to roll it out, because I think, as great as Little Things is, the worst thing they could have done was present it the way that they did. I've said this before, so but the last song on JT30 should have been Summer of Love. It's a summer concert. It's a kind of stripped down, fun little song. And Little Things is just, it's so heavy, and you just don't get the feeling of that song with a couple of spotlights, a couple of blue spotlights at the end of JT30. It needs to be I don't want to say, I know this is going to come off as heresy to some people and they might get mad, but I think a Little Things could have replaced Streets as like the moment of a show. just the way that you build it up and not choreograph it, but like just create a set design and like a visual sense and everything about it, that I think they have to roll it in at some point. Ow, sorry. They have to roll it in at some point. They're just because that could be the moment of the show that we all come away saying, blackout and blah blah blah. That was all fine, but that little thing, when they played Little Things, that was pretty spectacular. But I do think it'll pop up, maybe in a rotation, or maybe they find a way to fit it in. But I am just as confused as you, knitting person, whatever. KQ knits. Yeah.
We'll shelve the discussion of whether Little Things is equal to Streets, I guess, maybe for another episode.
I'm not saying it's equal to Streets. I'm saying it can have like a very cinematic kind of presentation that oh, wow, cool. But,
okay.
All right.
You and Matt can fight it out someday. Any further comments on Little Things?
I agree.
Go ahead, Colin.
I agree with Matt. I think they probably weren't crazy about it live, and it could just as well be a momentum killer during a show, just in terms of the pacing of the show and where to put it. I mean, again, I'm looking at this set list. I was like, well, where would you put it in the middle of all this? It's hard to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sherry said in the chat, do you think it's too emotional of a song when you blend in other songs of innocence, songs of experience, songs that are already emotional? At Tom Haverilla asked, with all the callbacks to Songs of Innocence on Songs of Experience, do you think U2 will play any full songs from Songs of Innocence on the upcoming tour? If so, which ones? So I don't know how we answer this.
So Tom has maybe not been paying attention like me.
I hope he's not listening to this then, because then
yeah. Definitely, they have practiced songs from Songs of Innocence. So, spoiler there, I guess, Tom. Sorry if that's the first time you've heard that. And Cedarwood Road, Raised by Wolves.
See, Chris, the cool thing coming into this is that when we started talking about the Experience in Innocence tour,
Iris,
I think the unanimous idea was they're at least going to play Every Breaking Wave, because that's like Bono's favorite song, and it's the one that they seem to love the most. But they haven't, to my knowledge, at least. It's very odd. You have great handwriting, Matt, I gotta say.
I know.
Matt's holding up a belated spoiler sign, so anybody who's watching the video is actually like 5 seconds too late with the spoiler.
Oh, really? I need to predict what you're all going to say and hold it up.
Yeah.
Just keep it there whole time.
Yeah.
Spoiler section.
It gets rid of the glare in your glasses, but
it does, right?
Wait, Colin, you look like you're about to pontificate on Songs of Innocence appearing on.
No, I've got two monitors here. That's why I'm looking at another direction. When I'm looking at my computer screen, I'm looking at another computer. But
fully staring into the distance.
Yeah, exactly. Spoiler, Matt. I'm giving you there you go. Thank you. No, I mean, they're like not just rehearsing, just certain songs from I&E, but they're like they're basically doing whole segments again. I mean, that's the weird thing. It's hopefully they'll maybe bring more life to them. Yeah, we know. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with these songs this time around. Hopefully something new.
Yeah, like you referenced at the beginning of the show, almost the photo we have from the stadium from rehearsals was basically Song for Someone's visuals on the screen. And so if they haven't updated any of those visuals at all for this tour, then it feels like it's a lot of ways, segments anyways, are going to just be replicated, which is just an interesting, there's the whole discussion that happened when Songs of Experience came out, and there's lots of callbacks to the previous album and stuff like that. And the debate of like, was this on purpose? Is it lazy? Is it whatever? And we kind of, I feel like, settled that of like, it's interesting and creative and fun, but a whole tour that has chunks that are copied or replicated from a previous tour is kind of different territory. And I think, like with someone,
it's not the U2 Experience tour; it's the U2 Experience in Innocence tour. I think there has to have some sort of carryover from the previous installment. It's like in a movie sequel. Are we just gonna? Yeah, we have the new Batman movie starring Batman, but is Jim Gordon not there? Is Alfred not there? Why wouldn't you have them there? They were in the last one, Why start from scratch when you have a nice foundation to build on? So, and I just, by the way, combined my two favorite things, so go me.
There we go. There's also the aspect of like with the Joshua Tree tour being sort of stuck in the middle of them, and not necessarily planned that way when they started the Innocence and Experience tour originally, maybe. And so this is kind of like just part B or side B or whatever of that whole tour, and the Joshua Tree thing is kind of a little blip in the middle. And in 20 years, we look back and we'll be, when we're still podcasting about U2, we'll remember that as just a nice, it's like leg 3 and 4 instead of a completely new tour, is what Sherry's saying. So.
Exactly.
All right. The question I know that's burning on a lot of folks' mind.
Get a neon spoiler sign, Matt. Tattooed on your forehead, I guess.
Tasula. It's too bad Tasula isn't on this episode to talk about this, because I know she has lots of thoughts and feelings about it. But at Tim Jahar's final question was, can you all talk about why Acrobat is so desired? It's my least favorite song on Acting Baby, so I'm genuinely curious why so many fans want to hear it. And Matt had his... You wanted to run with this one.
Well, yeah. I wish Tasula was on the podcast as well, but she and I feel the same way about this song, so I believe I can speak for her, because we feel the same way as Tim in that it's... I don't know if it's my least favorite song. I just don't think it's going to be as great as everyone has built it up to be for the last 30 years that they haven't been, or 27 years or whatever, that they haven't been playing it live. And I've probably said this on previous podcasts or whatever, but I think it's going to just come across like the way Electrical Storm came across when they tried playing that on the 360 tour, was it, I think? And they played it like 4 or 5 times, and they were like, this just doesn't work live. And so I don't know. I don't get well, I get, I don't personally share in it, but I get why I think it's because that's the album that most fans, at least the online fans, always in our poll have always voted that to be the favorite album. And that's the one song from that album that has never been played. And so it's kind of got developed over the years, this mythic thing. And it's, God, if they ever play Acrobat, oh my gosh, the world will shift on its axis and all this sort of stuff. And I don't share that. But this goes back to that previous question. I saw it had been rehearsed, and I think when the one article I looked at from very early in the Montreal Laval, is it pronounced Laval?
Laval is how
English
Canadians pronounce it, but
okay, Laval. The one that I saw from there was Acrobat, and it had also the Ocean, extreme rarity from the Boy Tour, and I thought that's interesting, because to me those are two of the most autobiographical songs Bono has ever written. I think if you look at the Ocean with, I thought the world would listen, if they would listen to me, I think that is like pretty much describes him throughout the 80s. And I think the line in Acrobat, I must be an acrobat to look like this and talk like that, that to me is what he has been saying for years about his life. If you go back to the Innocence and Experience tour, when he does the thing where he talks to himself during Bullet the Blue Sky as his younger self, and there's all this, he sees, hypocrisy or inconsistencies, and this is not what, my younger self expected you to be. That to me is just summed up in the line that I must be an acrobat to look like this and talk like that. And so I think those are two of the most autobiographical songs that he's ever written. And so I think those two songs fit in really well with this new album, which is probably the most autobiographical album he's ever written. And then to bring it back to what Collin was saying earlier, I think The Wanderer is also a totally autobiographical song. And so I think that would be a perfect fit as well. So anyway, I don't know if that answers Tim's question, but I think for me at least, that may explain why this is the tour that they're pulling it out, because that line and the autobiographical nature of it fits in with everything else that I think is going on.
Yeah, and I'll speak as somebody who really loves the song, whether or not it works live. Like, I mean, we won't know until, I would have guessed that they could have figured out a way to make Electrical Storm work live, and then they tried it and it didn't. And depending on how the version there was a version we heard that somebody recorded, outside the stadium or outside the arena, and that performance of it, what little we could have or hear, to me sounded good. Like it would be a good song pulled off live. It actually echoes a lot of, not totally lyrically, but echoes the feeling, I think, of Until the End of the World, and could fit very well in that slot even, or something like that. And so as someone who likes the song musically and lyrically, I think it could work, and I think that's why it is the optimist in me, I guess, thinks it'd be exciting to see them perform it, both for the reasons that it's never been performed, just to be able to say I was there at that show where they tried it in Montreal, and then they never played it again, maybe, or whatever, or to have it pull off and go well, which, like I said, I believe they could do it. Whether they figure out a way to do it, that's what remains to be seen, I guess. So
I think the album version, to me, what I hear on the album doesn't sound like something that will translate live. Now, if they change the album version up and figure out a way to present it live, some new version or different version or whatever, then sure, I think that I'm open to that for sure.
Yeah, if I can jump in here. When I first started listening... No. Okay, sorry. All right. Never mind. When I first started listening to these guys, Acrobat, in my first run-through of all their music, it was like in my top 10 favorite songs immediately, and I only found out later that it was this mythic sort of creature, I guess, just sitting there, and the toy on the top of the shelf that you just can't quite get to. And I think that's the heart of the song. I mean, I agree both with Chris in that I love the song and I think it would work, and with Matt and Tasula about how it's been built up for so long. How could it possibly live up to it? And I just think it's a classic case of people wanting what they can't have, and once they get it, they are all right with it. But either it's going to be a letdown or it's like going to be opening a present on Christmas morning, and most likely it'll fall somewhere in between. But I'm excited to hear it. I think I've heard 10 seconds of it on like a grainy Facebook video, so I have no idea what to expect as to if they change the structure or anything, or any of the visuals that go along with it. So, and if they play it once and never again, then I can hold that over people's heads. So,
I feel like the same way that Little Things was like a dud, but then they figured out a way, like later on with Kimmel on the Kimmel Show and other places, to like actually do it. I feel like that's how Acrobat could come out, where it's like they try it once in Tulsa or wherever, and they do it in like this. They don't build up to it. They don't have it doesn't fit thematically. It's just kind of like plopped in the middle, so they can say they did it. That would be, I guess, a disappointing way for Acrobat to get played, I think. But I feel like thematically they could really fit it in somewhere, even if it's just like part of it or whatever. And it could pull it off really well, especially the Edge solo in it and stuff is just like would be.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I think that's what will sell more people on the live version of this when it gets to Edge's guitar solo. I mean, come on, you're talking about some of the. I mean, this is great musicianship from all four of these guys when it gets to that part of the song. It's a complex song, rhythmically and everything. And I just think I think they know that a lot of fans have been clamoring to hear it, because it has that mythical status of being the only song on arguably their greatest album that has never been played live. And it's just, they think, okay, well, now's the time to give this a try. These fans have been very patient with us and our set list. So maybe for them, we could try this, maybe not every night, but, when they're doing multiple nights in a city, maybe do it the second night, that sort of thing. I could see it becoming that kind of song, that sort of switch out song. So I want it to happen. I really do. I just do.
I seriously get chills even just thinking about like the bass line just kicking in.
Yeah.
The intro of the song. Like, I don't know what this sounds like fighting words, I guess, but like what kind of YouTube fan wouldn't love to hear Adam kick into that bass line at the beginning, just like filling the whole stadium with that.
A bad one.
Yeah. No, I didn't say that. You said that.
A bad YouTube fan would not want to hear that.
That's a good title right there. A bad U2 fan would not want to hear that, because somebody suggest that should be the winner right there.
Yeah. You can have the fight with Tasula and Matt in the Slack chat after Mason.
And hearing the MP3 video or like audio of this song being played again, we just need to remind ourselves that that's only half the battle. The other half is how you present it. And I know I kind of have a rough idea of the songs that are being played and kind of the order, but I by no means couldn't rattle off the entire league set list. But if memory serves, they did put it in a pretty good spot, behind one big song and then in front of another big song. So and you don't need the spoiler. I don't know. I can't remember which way.
It was Vertigo and then Acrobat and then You're the Best Thing. So it is a weird pairing. I feel like to go.
Yeah,
I thought there was I thought I could have sworn Fly and Until the End of the World were in there somewhere.
Maybe there's another. This is the set list at least from the April 20th. So,
yeah. But where is it in relation to Salome? Because I know Salome and it pops up somewhere.
Oh, that wasn't on this set list.
I know. I want somebody out to be like, oh, Salome, and then
is it before or after Stateless? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. No. Slug is that it's Stateless is by Slug, and Your Blue Room. That's the East.
Gotcha.
So
sweet.
Yeah.
And then Gavin Friday comes out for Big Girls Are Best. I think.
Sure.
That was incredible.
This is the show we all want to see. I think.
I mean, they get Patti Smith out there to spit on some people, and then you got a show.
There's about 4 titles there we could grab. Okay. Yes. I think that's a good time to wrap up the episode. In terms of other stuff coming up besides the tour starting in a week, there's the U2 conference happening in Belfast, and you can find more details about that at u2conference.com, as the site quickly loads for me here, and check it out there, get tickets, and head over to Northern Ireland in mid-June. So I'll be going to Montreal, and y'all can go to Belfast and check out the U2 conference.
Hold on, did anybody? I spent a good 2 hours waiting in line Saturday morning. Did anybody else get the
the Record Store Day
release of Lights of Home with the Beck remix on it?
How was the
anybody
Beck
else
remix?
get this?
Have you
but
heard it?
I heard it once because somebody posted it online somewhere, and now it's gone. I can't find it anywhere. It's pretty good. I mean, but like the main change that he made with the song was that he took the end part of "Free Yourself to Be Yourself" and made that the chorus of the song. So you hear that more, and then the chorus that's there now becomes a bridge. So he kind of flipped it around a little bit, but it's Lights of Home is one of those songs that's been remixed twice now, at least twice. And I think it's just one of those songs you can't screw up. It's that good, So.
How about Mason or Matt? Did you guys pick up the records?
I did not.
No? All right.
No. Sorry.
1 out of 4 podcast hosts on this episode picked up the record. So I guess we should also hand in our YouTube fan card at some point. I just haven't taken the plunge into record collecting, and I know if I did, I would dive off the deep end, and then my kids wouldn't be able to go to university. So, and Sherry says we'll be giving away one of those at our Tulsa event, which is also coming up around the Tulsa show, in case you're not aware. At u2.com is where you can check out all the details on that's coming up. Follow, of course, the Twitter handle, twitter.com/ATU2 if you do Twitter. If you're on Facebook, facebook.com/ATU2com, and then instagram.com/ATU2com. Where can folks find you, fine gentlemen, if they wish to disagree with any of your sentiments on this episode or otherwise? Starting with you, Collin.
At Collin_Suitor. That's capital C and capital S for Collin Suitor.
And Mason?
You can at not Mason Merritt on Twitter, or if you come to Tulsa, you can say it to my face. I dare you. I'm imposing. I'm 5'8", pale,
140 pounds, soaking wet.
Yeah, and I'm gonna cry when I hear Acrobat. So that can't be a show. That can't be a show title. So just so you know, don't nominate that.
Probably shouldn't have titles with spoilers in them. Matt, how about you? Where can they find you on Twitter?
I'm at Matt McGee on Twitter, at least for another week or so.
I'm iChris on Twitter, and this has been the episode 80 of the good stuff, the At U2 podcast. You can find links for this, anything we discussed in the show notes here at goodstuff.fm/ATU2/80. And I think that's it for this episode. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks for those who tuned in live. Thanks to Bono and the Edge.
Which is why Edge and I have taken up miniature golf.
And we will see you again next episode.
Woo!